Why is Diablo 4 so bad? Well, let's find out.
What's up, everybody? This is the Christian man here, and
Okay.
today I'm really disappointed, like more so than usual, because Diablo 4 started off so strong. Blizzard hooked
True,
me in.
though.
I was invested in the story, in the gameplay, but I guess I wasn't a fish worth catching. I'm just a lowly sea bass in Animal Crossing, worth only 120 bells. I guess the reason I use this analogy is because I've accepted that I'm no longer the target demographic of Diablo games.
Nice.
I've realized that Blizzard ain't making these games for people with my kind of interests. In truth, the tastes of modern gamers has evolved and changed, and Diablo is more
True.
profitable than it's ever been. But that doesn't necessarily mean the games are better than they've ever been, and I'll die on that cross. So yeah.
That's an interesting thing to argue. Because in reality, I think the Act-Man situation is easy and most of us can easily relate to it, right? The Act-Man is a currently fully grown man who just wishes to relive his experience of the old gaming. AKA when you were a kid. And most of us can probably relate to that. I would love to experience that, and probably so would honestly you, right? But the thing is, there's no way to experience that again. You know, even if someone recreated the games of our childhood, it would not hit the same. Because now we are adults. Life is more complicated, more difficult. So yeah, they don't cater to us anymore. And that's honestly probably a good thing if we're being real.
Yes, you read the title right. I don't like Diablo 4, and I think it's a bad video game. That is my personal opinion. If you enjoy this game, don't let me change your mind, okay?
If there's one thing I
Oh.
love,
Wait, hold on.
it's the
Nice.
sight of blood.
You know,
In Diablo 4,
Dude, this is the best ad they have ever done. And honestly, this probably increased sales. And if she was fully naked, I think that would have increased even more sales. I don't know what's the deal here, but I absolutely love every second of this ad. I have watched it like at least 50 times now, also. No shame.
there are
I actually
It's
think I
just
like this
good.
game. I'm not here to police your entertainment. You like what you like, that's fine by me, man. What I'm here to do is whine, bitch, moan, and complain into the ether like an old man.
Nice.
Like an ancient Haradrim who can't understand why everyone's forgotten the old ways. I really wanted to like Diablo 4, but the longer I played it, the more I came to despise it. But before we jump into hell, this video is sponsored by Rocket Money, an all-in-one finance
Got
platform
it.
that helps you save more and spend less. This finance app allows you to manage subscriptions, lower bills.
Ooh, they said finance app so people think it's big and smart. What a start.
Build a custom budget and grow your savings all in one place. What I
Wow.
love about Rocket Money is it keeps track of all of my recurring monthly payments so I don't have to go to 1,000 different places.
Exactly like your bank app in your phone. You know that your phone's bank app does the exact same thing, but for free. Yeah, let that sink in.
To see what I'm spending all the time. It makes it very quick and easy to manage and or cancel them. I guarantee you everybody watching this is paying some kind of monthly subscription that they shouldn't be or don't need to.
Yes, and they're fully probably consciously aware of that.
Rocket Money can help lower your bills and you can monitor your spending by setting up custom budgets. No more gambling my life savings.
How can Rocket Money how can that app lower my bills? Are they gonna go and negotiate my rent? Are they gonna go and negotiate my electricity bill? Because that's what you mean by bills, right? Or bills is what you spend in the grocery shop?
On CSGO skins, am I right, fellas?
Huh.
I also like to use Rocket Money to avoid paying taxes. Just kidding, I love the government.
Wow.
To save more and spend less, join the 3.5 million members using Rocket Money today. And your boy has got the hookup. So go to rocketmoney.com/acme
Yo.
or click the link in the description to get started.
Yes, if you want to buy an app that will literally do absolutely nothing in your life, save you not even a single dime, but cost you more as an extra Netflix subscription, use Rocket Money. Because, you know, you're an idiot. Probably. Nice.
For free. That's rocketmoney.com/actman to get started for free.
And now for something completely different.
Ooh.
So let's start with the positives. The combat in Diablo 4 is very fluid and fun overall. It feels good to slaughter hordes of demons with lightning bolts. Now, I didn't play much of 3, but between Diablo 1, 2, and 4, this one might have the best enemy design in the series, or at least the most interesting. In the early game, leveling up is extremely satisfying.
A lot of the enemies are reskins from Diablo 3, by the way. Well, not even reskins, they're literally Diablo 3 enemies.
When I saw this big skill tree for the first time, I just thought, I can't wait to max this out. And one thing I really do appreciate is that boss fights are more about dodging attacks instead of like the classic brute force, is my number bigger than that boss's number, you know? Because it adds a much greater emphasis on skill and strategy. A lot of boss fights in D1 and D2 were battles of...
That's not true. That's flat out not true. There's not a single boss that has mechanics that you need to dodge except Lilith if you're playing Diablo 4.
Attrition that could get pretty tedious. Now, I played as a druid, and all the abilities were cool, flashy, and felt awesome to use.
True.
The game certainly fulfills the power fantasy many are looking for in a Diablo title, and I appreciate that Blizzard tried to return Diablo to its gothic horror roots instead of the fucking Disney cartoon art style they came up with for Diablo 3. So I think with the core gameplay, they've succeeded. Now, before we get into the real shit, let's discuss some minor complaints. For one, Diablo 4 is a modern video game.
With all the new features that people really love and appreciate in modern games.
Which means it has to be always online just to shove half-assed MMO mechanics in a game that basically has no social features.
Okay, can we stop, by the way, with complaining about always online? No one cares. Everyone has the internet, okay? There's almost no people watching this video who honestly think always online is an issue because of their internet connection, okay? It's only an issue if the servers go down, and that's rare. Super rare, in fact, okay?
And virtually no reason for players to interact with each other.
It's so easy to create a community.
What?
It makes Diablo more of a social experience.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Always online also means if the servers get fucked, then so do you. It's like Blizzard literally learned nothing from Diablo 3. You know, when I see someone lose their hardcore character after putting hundreds of hours into it, and they lose it because of a server issue and not...
Well, that's their own fault for playing hardcore. Why would you choose to play hardcore in a Blizzard game? You're literally wasting time. The Butcher is a literal stat check. And if he spawns at the end of the dungeon when you're like level 20, you have no chance of killing him. Congratulations. Start over. That's the reality. Playing hardcore in Diablo 4 is a waste of time.
Not a skill issue? Yeah, fuck that noise. That's bullshit. At first, I thought it was pretty cool that they added a horse into this game until I unlocked the horse. I mean, it's so janky. It takes like 10 seconds to warm up its engine before it starts running. Like what the fuck? Hey-ya! Hey-ya! Come on, giddy up! Giddy up, you bastard! Okay, there he goes. Okay, now on to the real shit. Diablo 4, for me, contains 2 crippling, fun-ruining flaws. Flaws so important that if changed, I would continue playing the game without question. Okay. Number 1, the difficulty. Number 2, the skills. Let's start with difficulty. So I stopped playing at level 48 after beating the campaign. Now, you can run down to the comments section and tell me what a casual scrub I am, that I need to play on World Tier 3, and how Diablo 4 starts to get fun and challenging after I beat the game and reach level 50. And if you're thinking that, you've just proven my point. Why do I have to dump 30 hours into Diablo 4 simply to unlock a difficulty option that suits my skill and experience? Well, because that's how it's always been, Act Man. Yeah, you're right. The big difference is in Diablo 1 and 2, the games weren't this easy. And D2 had some extreme difficulty spikes. The base game is so ridiculously easy that by the time I got to that climactic finale in Hell, I was bored out of my mind, begging for it to end. After an experience like that, why the hell would I keep playing? I did end up doing the first capstone dungeon, and for whatever reason, that was like a light switch. It's like, oh my god, I'm actually dying to boss mechanics and not just cheap gimmicks like hard crowd control that lock me in place for 5 seconds. I'm not exaggerating when I say every single death I had, besides this boss, was from hard crowd control. The game had to stop me from moving in order to kill me. This capstone dungeon was like the highlight of my playthrough, likely because I was underleveled.
This guy?
So why is this game so easy? In Diablo 4, literally everything scales with your level. The cost of items and upgrades, strength of enemies, gear. It's funny because every quest has a level recommendation next.
Is the Act-Man just super shit at games? I don't know. This segment right here kind of makes me believe that kind of hardcore, not gonna lie. Is he super shit at games?
To it, yet it's always the same as your level. So
Interesting.
it's like, what's the point? This does provide some positive benefits. It makes it easy to play with friends of higher or lower levels. You don't have to worry about your buddy who's played for 600 hours, one-shotting everything and robbing you of the gameplay experience. Another
True.
nice touch is that you don't ever out-level quests, dungeons, or the main story. So you can progress these things in any
that's
order
true.
you want. However, the drawbacks to the scaling difficulty are so flagrant and obvious, I can't believe more people aren't talking about them. You understand what it actually means for the entire game to scale with the player's level in an RPG? It means that the challenge stays virtually the same from start to finish. Why is this a problem? Well, it's going to take a good long while to explain, but if the only available difficulty option is easy as balls,
I feel we talked about... I think we have talked about this for literal tens of hours at this point.
then you'll be begging for the sweet release of death. Now, we're going to be comparing Diablo 4 to Diablo 1 and 2 and to World of Warcraft a lot. While WoW and
Okay,
D4
fair.
are different kinds of games, the core mechanics that make an RPG fun and satisfying to grind, I feel, are the same. So let's imagine if World of Warcraft was more like Diablo 4. Picture this. You just spent a bunch of time grinding levels, doing dungeons, raids, getting the best gear, becoming stronger. You go back
Yes.
to the starting area, and guess what? That boar you fought at level 2 takes just as many hits to kill as when you're level 70. Would you feel like a badass in this situation? No, you'd feel like an asshole. Like you just got duped into wasting your time playing an RPG that fooled you into thinking you were growing and getting stronger. Now, sure, you'd certainly have
I guess that's a really good way to explain it, honestly, right? I think that's a really good way to explain it.
more abilities at level 70 than 2, but the point is when you level up in Diablo 4, you don't get stronger, the enemies do, and you receive a skill point to deal with it. So because the challenge is consistently easy from start to finish, I was basically playing this game on autopilot, and if I wanted a game I could turn my brain off and play, I'd grind RuneScape. But Diablo is an action RPG. I want action. I want something that's fun, exciting, and fraught with danger. And if it's got some spooky, scary moments, that's a huge plus too. This level scaling mechanic is one of the most fucked up things I've ever seen in an RPG. It goes beyond simply making the moment-to-moment combat stale and repetitive. And you might be thinking, well, Act-Man, what about Oblivion and Skyrim? Well, that's a lot different because you have some control over the difficulty, and the scaling only affects the types of enemies you encounter. So it's a lot different. To be fair, I think
that's
Diablo 4
true.
excels in its...
That's actually very true. If you do not know in those games, you get levels. The level 1 bandit is still going to always be the level 1 bandit, but at level 10, you encounter different kind of bandits who are actually stronger than that bandit. They're completely different kind, even though they look the same probably. But that's a good point.
enemy design. There's a ton of cool creepy demons like those spider hosts and the walking ball sacks that spawn flies. The Balrogs return, as do the Fallen. Everything fits a theme based on the area it's in, and I like that. Enemies can spawn in unique ways. They unfreeze in the snowy areas or ambush you when you loot certain chests. Enemy movesets are flashy and fun to play around. Scaling fucks with the world and level design much more than you'd expect, because every corner of the game is now stuck at the same difficulty level. Therefore, no zone stands out or feels more challenging than the last. There is no sense of progression. Again, what if you took this scaling difficulty and added it to Elden Ring? What if you went to Caelid at the start and you didn't get your ass whooped by those giant dogs? Well, then that place wouldn't be as memorable. The desolate atmosphere and red-tinted sky would betray the tone of Caelid. The land of Caelid would not have this stigma amongst Souls fans of being a challenging, oppressive area of the game. And that's what makes it stand out. You get what I'm saying?
I get what he's saying, but I don't agree with that. I mean, Dark Souls and Elden Ring and all of that jazz is fundamentally built different. In Diablo, your main way of progression is just acquiring gear, okay? It's gaining levels slightly, but mostly it's acquiring gear that changes things and, just big upgrades. And that's how you're supposed to be ahead of the curve. So, there is progression, but I see his point would be, if you get super unlucky and you get nothing, well, then you're absolutely screwed and it doesn't feel like progression.
When you give players far too much freedom to explore an open world and you don't gatekeep any sections of it, then they end up having nothing to look forward to and nothing to go back to. It feels like there's no rhyme or reason to what I'm doing in the world of Sanctuary, and it doesn't matter what order I do it in, so it all just feels the same to me. Is this making any sense, or am I just talking out of my Diablo butthole? Diablo. You know how in Breath of the Wild, after leaving the tutorial, you could go straight to Ganon's castle? I mean, you'd stand no chance, but that type of freedom is genius because you're given a sense of progression in the world and the different zones. You're not supposed to be here yet, but the designers still let you. I feel like this is just like basic open world RPG design 101. They dangle a super hard boss or tough enemy in front of you and say, come back when you're stronger, bitch. There's plenty of examples, the anti-guy in Paper Mario, the skeletons next to Firelink Shrine, or the sword dancer in Tales of Symphonia. That's why going...
I have a problem with this because he is comparing games that have a set linear progression, while Diablo 4 does not have this set linear progression. It never intended to have this set linear progression. There are no bosses that you are supposed to revisit because Diablo 4 is not made around bosses in an end-to-end game type of situation, That's what Diablo 4 is doing. He's comparing it to games that have literally built from the ground up to have the beginner zone, medium zone, and the end zone. And you're supposed to progress through them. Yeah, this is kind of apples and oranges in my opinion.
Going back to Slaughter the Tree Sentinel was so satisfying because at that point you feel like you've grown stronger and gotten better at the game since he whooped your ass. And it's that feeling of growth and accomplishment that I tend to chase in RPGs. Unfortunately, in my 30 hours of playing Diablo 4, I never once had that feeling. These types of difficulty spikes, they just give me something to look forward to. I need a challenge I can't beat yet, or a super difficult optional boss thrown in my face, a forbidden area I can't access yet. That's what inspires me to grind and get better gear, to see more of
He's
the game.
technically right.
If you brought Diablo 4's version of scaled difficulty to other RPGs, you'd see how fucking atrocious it is. Like I said, I did the first capstone dungeon at level 48, so I was 2 levels below the recommended, and after 30 hours, this was the challenge I'm looking for. The boss is well designed. Dying to him made me pissed. I felt some tension every time I got close to killing him and was running.
Yeah, you see what I mean? Is the Ackman just bad at the game? Because this boss is easy. I don't know if Ackman actually plays complicated games. He probably has never even tried Lost Ark. I mean, would that be the most complicated game he has ever played in his life? And again, for all you Dark Souls and Elden Ring fans, your game's super fucking shit easy. Even a trained monkey could probably master it in a day. Go play a real hard game like, for example, Lost Ark. You know what? Oh, my boss has 5 mechanics in Elden Ring. Oh. So, try 50 mechanics that you need to learn by pixels, so you know when the animation starts, so you can dodge out of it and start DPSing faster, so you actually finish the boss in time. Yeah, that's actually called hard.
Low on healing potions. My point is, why did I have to beat the game to start being challenged by it? Remember how simple Diablo 1 was? There were 16 levels and each one got progressively more difficult and was filled with different and tougher enemies. The soundtrack and visuals would change as you got closer to Diablo's lair and hell itself. This is a very simple way to convey to the player that the challenge was evolving. This doesn't happen in Diablo 4.
Actually, Diablo 1 is a 1-for-1 replica of Diablo 4 in reality. Because the thing is, in Diablo 1, zones don't scale to you. But they are literally designed to be an appropriate level. So, if you are playing the game properly, it is almost the exact same as Diablo 4's zone scaling, level scaling. Because... it's the exact same thing. It's not like you can break out of the level scaling that is given in Diablo 1. It's just forced. The moment you enter a new zone, if you just rush through it, yeah, you're gonna be too weak in the next level of the zone. But, you know, if you play through it and enter it, it's always guiding you by the hand, so you never actually fail it, you know? And Diablo 4 is technically the same.
It doesn't matter when you go to hell. The challenge will be the same. It's like, this is a game about fighting the forces of fucking hell. Slaying demons. I'm not the Doomslayer. I can't be the scariest thing in the game. I want it to be challenging. I want to run into some big fuck-off demon that whoops my ass. Blizzard likes to remind everyone that Diablo 4 was going back to its roots. They say darkness has returned.
Well, the initial direction was Diablo 2.
The art direction for Diablo 4 is really rooted in this idea of delivering on the fantasy of a dark, gothic, medieval world.
And that was kind of the initial art direction of the game in general, was darker and grittier, and Diablo 2 was kind of the inspiration.
We wanted to bring Diablo 4 artistically more back towards like Diablo 2, the much darker style.
Major redesign to make them feel more grim, a little scarier, a little darker.
And when writing this next chapter, we really wanted to return to our darker roots.
Everything's a little darker, everything's more difficult.
The story of Lilith and Inarius is the darkest story we've ever told.
What?
Without me,
Is it?
you would have no victory. And its cost will be more than you can pay.
It's the darkest story we've ever told.
You have
That's
done
not
well.
true.
Now I think you shall have your reward.
Nice.
The story of Lilith and Inarius is the darkest story we've ever told.
The dark tone is at direct odds with the gameplay because you're slaughtering endless hordes of trash mobs like it's nothing. You could compare this idea to Bloodborne or Bioshock or Dead Space, where the gameplay matches the tone of the locations and narrative. You see, the brilliance of Diablo 1's design is there are very few moments where you can let your guard down, even at the start, because even the trash mobs can surround you and kill your ass. This made exploration in Diablo 1 very tense and methodical. It was an action RPG, but it also felt like a survival game. But this whole aspect of surviving the forces of hell started to become more and more irrelevant when they released the second game. The issue with Diablo 1's design is that it doesn't fulfill the power fantasy modern gamers are looking for in a Diablo game. Like I said, the tastes have changed, and I accept that. Diablo fans nowadays want to kill hordes of demons that fill up the entire screen, and they want to feel like a badass. The problem I have with this is it makes—
Wait! Did he just completely contradict himself? He was saying that, you know, there's this level scale, that Diablo 4's problem was level scaling, and because of that, you're never strong and everything poses a threat to you. And then he said, well, Diablo 1, everything also poses threat. Doesn't that make Diablo 4 good? I'm confused. Wasn't Diablo 1 supposed to be the good example? The good cross-reference here? I'm feeling a little bit lost here, technically. Is Diablo 2 now the bad one?
most fights with basic enemies feel totally trivial and pointless because they serve no actual threat. Now, this doesn't bother me in normal RPGs where you outlevel enemies, but because of the scaling, that's not a thing. At some point, I realized that fighting random enemies on the way to a quest was a waste of time because the quest itself will give me demons to fight, so I might as well skip all combat in the open world entirely. You see, it's not enough to make a somewhat linear ARPG that progresses in challenge through 5 different acts. They need to make a Diablo game into some sort of endlessly replayable grind fest in order to maximize player retention and justify a live service business model.
Yes,
Diablo 2 was more open, but it was segmented, you know? You couldn't just run to the Act 5 area at the start of the game. If they had to have the open world, I would have suggested make the campaign somewhat linear, and then once players beat the game, the world opens up. But there would be a lot more to it than that. The point is, when you throw hundreds and thousands of trash mobs at me, it trivializes the combat and therefore trivializes the threat hell itself poses to the world.
I don't know, Chief. You just showed a really good video where, you know, basic mobs are almost killing you, so I'm not sure you're selling this idea to me real
the
good.
combat, and therefore trivializes the threat hell itself poses to the world of Sanctuary. When I did finally get to hell, there was a brief moment of excitement. I was like, oh, fuck yeah. I'm gonna start seeing some crazy ass enemies. And then it was the same demons I was fighting at the start of the game. Even the unique bosses aren't all that challenging. Take the Astaroth battle, it's built up quite a bit. I mean, you're fighting a Hell Knight riding a giant 5-headed demon dog. Talk about fucking epic. This should be a major checkpoint in the
It's
player's
actually
skill.
the easiest fight in the game.
Total badass. Instead, he's a cakewalk because of scaling difficulty. I made a video a long time ago about the most important thing every video game needs, and it's challenge. If I'm not challenged, you know, then I don't see a point. I don't see a point to playing the game, and that's how I feel about Diablo 4. I might have been willing to grind to World Tier 3 and deal with the game's lack of difficulty up to that point if it weren't for the second crippling flaw, the skills. Now, at first I was having a blast with this game, and every time I leveled up, I was super pumped to spend the next
Yeah, the skills get boring real fast. That's big true.
5 minutes looking at the skill tree and carefully considering what I would put my point in. I felt like my playstyle was constantly expanding until I unlocked my ultimate. Once you do that, the game becomes extremely repetitive as your playstyle is set in stone from then on, and you're only investing points in passive bonuses and stat increases. Sure, you can respec and swap out skills, but you're only allowed 5 abilities and a basic attack. Once you max these abilities out, you can only move laterally, not vertically. You can't expand your playstyle or your arsenal of tools, you can only swap things out. Does that make sense? Yes, this limitation does create trade-offs and forces players to think carefully about what to invest in and what type of playstyle they want. But I remember Diablo 2 doing this exact same thing and letting you have 8 abilities and a basic attack. And
okay, that's okay. This is an absolutely 100% disingenuous point. In Diablo 2, you had teleport and your main attack. Whoa. Boa. Okay. And 3 hours that you cast time to time. So 2 active abilities and pretty much 3 passives. Wow. Chief. Wow, don't spoil. This is an absolutely disingenuous comparison. That's bull, okay? That is absolutely bull. Again, look at this. Passive. Something you don't actually use. I don't know why he actually has it on his toolbar. Smite. He has charge and zeal. If you're a smiter, you're not using zeal. If you're a zealot, you're not using smite probably, okay? Charge gets replaced by enigma, and well, you know, that's kind of it. In reality, he's using 1 active skill at a time, and for bosses, it's just gonna be 1 skill. So this is such a bad faith comparison.
shit, 2 weapons you could swap between. Shit, man, even the original Diablo let you have, what, like 30 different abilities and magic spells? I guess this 5-skill limitation in Diablo 4 wouldn't bother me so much if it weren't so tedious to change build, right? If you get to a super high level in Diablo 4 and decide to change your playstyle, you better have enough gold to change it back in case you hate it. Because there is no loadout system, which I think would work if you could purchase like loadout slots and you could swap those out at the stash. I'd probably keep playing the game if that was a thing. But right now, it just feels like Diablo 4 is insistent on restricting the most fun aspects of its gameplay. Is it for—
If you actually play the game, you know that gold is absolutely not even close to a limiter to anything. Gold's almost barely useful, honestly.
For balance? Balance for what? PvP? Who the fuck cares? WoW lets you use like 500 different abilities. Balance for PvE? That's a laugh. We just established the game is too easy up until you hit level 50. Maybe it's to force players to make trade-offs, and that seems more likely, but come on, man. It's boring.
A main cornerstone of D4 is play your way.
Between all of our different systems, you can really create a custom character in ways that was not available in previous Diablo titles.
I'll give you a tip, boys. Never be in a room with just her. Always have the door open. Make sure people are around you, or you're fired.
You're a liar! You're a liar! In the eternal conflict between the high heavens and the burning hells, Diablo 4 offers you more choice than ever before.
This too is false.
Because we have all of these different ways to make your own character, there's a lot more
Like
possibility compared to previous titles of how you want to play, how you want to build your character.
Liar! You see, I had this fantasy of being a lightning-throwing, shape-shifting druid. I wanted to have a hybrid between those two builds, but I had to settle for just the lightning. Why can't we have more hot?
I played a druid and I instantaneously could do a hybrid. That's actually what I did. It required literally 0 legendaries also. Bruh. You can literally do that. No problem, Acti. Like, let's be real here. How did you fail at that? It's all there. Do you not read or something?
Keys. Is it a technical limitation, like because they're making a game for consoles too? Well, that doesn't make sense because Dragon Age Origins, Fable, and other RPGs have had workarounds for that issue. But let's look at another top-down RPG that's also on console. Divinity Original Sin 2, one of the greatest video games ever made. You can invest points in the memory stat to unlock more skill slots. There's no limit, and you can do this with 4 different characters. It's literally like that easy, or at least it would be if when you leveled up, you can invest points in attributes, but you can't do that in Diablo until level 50. What the fuck? What were they thinking? Look, these are 2 radically different kinds of games, but the point is, as someone who's played a fuck ton of RPGs, I have a lot more fun with this than this. The limitations on skills and the backwards-ass design of scaling difficulty have basically killed any long-term enjoyment I could have had with this game. You blew it! Diablo 4 is plagued by so many what the fuck were they thinking type of issues. It's almost comical. What the fuck? You know how when PC players play a first-person shooter and they lose their mind if they can't control the field of view? That's exactly how I felt playing Diablo 4. Like, bro, why is the camera so zoomed in? They got custom games in Warcraft 3 that let you zoom out further than what the base game lets you. Dude, zooming out is one of the biggest features they flaunted when they were promoting StarCraft Remastered. I just don't get it. Look, I'll show you, okay? Here's the FOV in the original. Character ain't too big, looks great. Here's Diablo 2, same thing. Okay. Even Diablo 3 somehow got this right. And then, well, what the fuck? Throughout my playthrough, I kept spamming the scroll button in vain, hoping it would zoom out, but it never does. Wait, hold the fucking phone. You can zoom out? I've been playing for 20 hours, and now when I'm in hell near the end of the goddamn game, it can finally zoom out? Why couldn't I play the rest of the game like this? Why does it only zoom out at parts where the developers want to show off the level design? The level design's beautiful, by the way. Why do I even have to complain about this? It just shouldn't be an issue. Just let me zoom out. I figure we might as well discuss the side content Diablo offers. Well, most of it is pretty fun initially, like the dungeons, some side quests have interesting bits of story, and the strongholds are fun, lengthy battles. But these activities get old real quick. It's pretty obvious they had a quantity over quality mentality to ensure there was a lot of content for players to grind and complete. So there's 5 main areas in the game, and by completing the side content, you earn renown, which lets you unlock important things like extra skill points, more potion capacity. It's pretty much necessary to max these things out after you beat the campaign. Problem is, once again, as a result of the live service, Blizzard intends to reset the renown you've earned with every season. Why is this a problem? Because most Diablo fans fucking hated grinding for it.
I don't know why they are holding on to the idea that refarming renown will be fun. I don't want to do the same side quests again. They're fucking annoying and they're a waste of time. I don't want to have to re-clear the same pointless dungeons for no reason.
You've probably seen people say stuff like, if I don't want to have to grind renown again, if I have to grind renown again, I'm not playing anymore. And
True. Big true. I also have said this like multiple times.
I'm sitting over here thinking to myself, so if the side content is that bad, if it's so boring that you never want to experience anything like it ever again, then that's not content, dude. Those are chores. You're at the grocery store right now, checking off a list. You know, maybe these activities are worth re-examining and redesigning to make grinding renown a fun experience so that players are open to doing that again. In the promotional videos, Blizzard kept reiterating how much content there is, and that players will never run out of things to do.
It's been created to feel full of things to encounter, full of secrets to discover, full of characters to interact with, full of stories to find.
You have so many activities that you might run into.
Diablo 4 offers so much more for players to do than ever before.
We've really crafted the world to feel like there's always something just around the corner to find.
Every single time you come back to play Diablo 4, there's going to be new stuff for you to experience.
There's over 120 dungeons to play through and find. We've got almost 150 dungeons in the game.
I mean, yeah, and most of these dungeons look the exact same, not gonna lie. Like, there's what would you say, like 6, 7, 8 maybe base dungeon layouts, you know? Sure, there are RNG in the middle, but there's like a base, and there's like only 7 types of bases.
There's going to never be an absence of something to do. It's really just going to be a way to keep coming back and experiencing more Diablo 4.
It's usually a red flag when I hear developers talk like this, because what they're actually trying to say, if you translate it, is our game is going to have endless amounts of boring, tedious, and shallow activities. They focus on the scale of content instead of its quality. They prioritize the grind instead of the...
I mean, Elden Ring could have exactly tried to promote themselves in this exact same way, but I think his opinion about that would be different.
Fun, the exciting, and the new. I don't know, man. I guess I just don't get it. I don't understand the appeal of having my progress and my character reset every few months, and then having the devs try to pass it off as a feature and not a corrupt...
Oh no! The Axeman is one of... Dude! Now I get it. The Axeman is just bad at games. Oh no, he's a completionist. He literally plays a game, and his whole literal existence is about completing the game. So, oh no, we found one of the people who are against seasonal resets because they're bad. Because seasons are bad. Oh no, this is bad. Also, his argument kind of gets thrown out the window here, considering that you just continue playing in the Eternal Realm. You literally just continue playing the Eternal Realm if you want to do it like that, okay? Wow, okay, so this guy is against seasons because seasons bad, reset character bad. Okay, so he has a full-blown completionist mentality. Interesting.
Save file. You know, getting to level 40 and saving up enough money to buy a mount in WoW Classic was a big deal. I felt so accomplished after I did that, and that I could explore the world much more efficiently. But more importantly, Blizzard didn't take my mount away after 3 months and say, go do all that shit again, asshole. What's next on the agenda? Stats and loot. The bread and butter of most RPGs and the main reason people play them for hundreds of hours.
True.
On some occasions, you do get a nice reward for completing a quest or defeating a boss, like this amulet that summons a barrier or the Mother's Embrace ring you get from Lilith, but these are extremely rare in the campaign. Now, it might just be me, but I find the majority of loot drops in Diablo 4 to be terribly unexciting, to the point where I hardly read what most items actually do. And at a certain point, I just walk past chests because they rarely hold anything of interest. I think the loot is extremely boring for a few reasons. Number one, it all looks extremely generic. Maybe it's because I'm playing as a druid and just the druid items are boring, but when I look at the loot in Diablo 1 and 2, it just looks way fucking cooler. You got like the Skull Shield or Arcane's Valor. I mean, look at the helmets and how colorful and different they are. But in Diablo 4, when I find a pair of boots, I feel like it's the same fucking pair of boots I've already seen 100 times. Am I the...
Okay, you know, no, not a single Diablo game has actually good-looking boots. The best you can get is a recolor or color palette swap for boots, bruh.
The only one who feels this way? Am I missing something? Am I tripping? You know, maybe it also has to do with the fact that every item takes up the same amount of space and the icons all look so similar that in my brain, it all morphs together. There are very few moments where finding a piece of loot is genuinely exciting in Diablo 4. And part of that is because I'm also not a huge fan of RPGs that dump a bunch of meaningless numbers and stats into the menu and equipment. Remember how awesome it was in WoW when you got that first item that boosted your stats instead of just armor?
Oh, dude, 4 strength, 4 stam, leather belt. Level 18.
True.
I think part of the reason this clip became a meme is his excitement mirrored our excitement, and that was for a belt that he found at level 18. I have never been even close to this excited for any item in Diablo 4. When appraising the value of an item in an RPG, it really helps to understand the game's mechanics and what certain stats actually improve. If the stats and numbers are too convoluted, then players aren't going to understand or feel any tangible benefit from increasing them.
Hot take, you need to be literally autistic to not understand what these stats mean. It's not complicated, it's not rocket science, okay?
Right? Again, you look at items in WoW, it's like plus 17 stamina. What does plus 1 stamina do? Plus 10 HP. Okay? You can easily wrap your head around that. But because the sense of progression in Diablo 4 is so fucking skewed, now you find an item that's like plus 9 to all stats. And you're like, what the fuck? That sounds awesome. I'm only level 20. And then you look at what 1 point of strength does, and what does it do?
True.
It gives you 1 point of armor. Okay,
That's
well,
true,
I have
though.
3,000 points of armor, so this is worthless to me. I can't get over this. Like, strength doesn't improve your damage or nothing? What does strength typically do in an RPG? You want to use this big-ass weapon? Strength requirement. You want to do more damage? Strength. Bro, even in Warcraft...
In Diablo 1 and 2, technically, it improved your damage if you leveled strength and you used melee. But no one did that because the only stat that mattered in Diablo 2 was vitality. You literally got enough strength to use your gear. You literally got enough dexterity to have 75 block rate. And you put 0 points in everything else, aka energy. If you put a single point in energy, congratulations, you bricked your character. You need to respec. Not exactly enticing game design, honestly. This one's technically better.
3, the strength stat did more than what it does in Diablo 4, and that wasn't even an RPG. I've never played an RPG like this where the core stats felt so fucking useless, so meaningless to increase. This is apparently what the entire Paragon board is all about. Yeah, and let's talk about that shit. How do you balance a game that has skill trees this big by making each point basically worthless? Diablo 1 did it better. I cannot for the life of me understand what they were thinking. The reason I bring all this up is because so many of the stats on items just, I look at it and I'm like, well, this doesn't mean anything to me, or it doesn't feel important. League of Legends champion design suggests that giving players fewer but more meaningful passives is far more desirable than a bunch of passives that offer minimal changes, because you're not going to notice most of this shit at all, especially when the enemies are scaling with you. There's so many different damage modifiers, you know, complex number calculations like damage to close enemies, damage to distant enemies. Well, where's the stat for damage to enemies at a moderate distance? Why don't you have that as well? Why is it necessary to have like 8 different stats to calculate how much damage something does? Why do resistances reduce incoming physical damage as well as magical damage? It's just like, I just think this is like the worst stat system I've ever seen in an RPG.
I think he means it around the other way around. Why does armor decrease magical damage?
Defies belief to me. So again, going back to the original, enemies didn't respawn and levels were finite. So you were encouraged to kill everything, pick up every item, and sell the shit you weren't using. You could sometimes buy a really good item with gold, and in the later stages purchase elixirs to boost stats, and of course stock up on potions. But Diablo games, in my opinion, even the first 2, always had a way of making gold feel kind of worthless. That has never been more apparent than in Diablo 4. It's like you'd only have 2 options: buy the shittiest gear you'll never use for dirt cheap, or drop all of your money on one overpowered item. I hate having just these 2 choices. So when you keep checking the shop inventory in Diablo 4 and it's never anything...
I never check the shop inventories. I doubt anyone actually does, honestly.
...good, or it's something that requires you to drop all your money so you can't respec, you just stop checking. This blows my mind. The entire concept of purchasing items and equipment in an RPG is superfluous. That's a big fucking problem. I never once in my entire playthrough purchased a piece of equipment from a store. You know, sure, I did things like upgrade my potions or craft elixirs or upgrade my gear, but I never bought anything. In fact, this item has more item power, but the ring I currently have equipped has higher resistances. So, like, why the fuck would I ever buy this? Or that? Or that? Imagine creating an RPG where the in-game currency feels worthless. At one point, I stopped.
Welcome to literally every Diablo game that has ever existed. I'll be your guide. They're all worthless. It is what it is.
Trying to pick up gold entirely if it was 2 seconds out of my way. And again, because the value of items scales and everything is progressively getting more and more expensive, I feel like I'm only able to afford 1 or 2 items at any particular store. So I'm not about to drop all my cash on something that I'm just going to end up outscaling in an hour or 2. I think you've royally fucked up the in-game currency when taking 3 seconds to double back and pick up a pile of gold feels like a waste of time. So many facets of this game feel superfluous to me, and I'm not saying they are superfluous, it's just how they feel to me.
It's just dodging everything.
My playstyle eventually developed into, okay, I'm skipping chests because those are worthless. I run through all combat in the open world because it's unnecessary. If gold isn't in my path, I don't go back for it. I skip through sections of dungeons so I can complete them faster. I skip dialogue and side quests so I can grind the renown faster. I don't go into the cellars anymore, and it's just like, dude, I'm just skipping the game.
Yeah?
I'm just skipping past all this shit. This is the game. All right, Diablo 4, you've got one last chance to redeem yourself, and that's with this story. Is it any good? Well,
don't actually know this spot. I skipped it because the dialogues were way too long. The only points in dialogues I didn't skip was Mephisto. Everything else, garbanzo.
I'm pleased to say that the opening cutscene is pretty fucking awesome. It begins with some grave robbers who are in way over their heads. They stumble across a power, the likes of which they can't even comprehend. And immediately the game establishes that sense of terror and fear that was sorely lacking in Diablo 3. Then your character arrives in a town, you clear a dungeon of demons out for them, you head back and start celebrating with the townsfolk when all of a sudden, oh shit, you're poisoned. This guy brings you to a shack where they perform some kind of satanic human sacrifice ritual, and it's like, okay.
Good times.
All right. You got me invested. So while there are some decent moments here and there, after the introduction, the story takes a fucking nosedive like Amelia Earhart. The beginning and end of Diablo 4 are the game's strongest parts, narratively, likely because there are only 2 pre-rendered cutscenes that sandwich the rest of the story. Almost everything that happened in the middle is just a blur to me, which is strange because the setup for the plot is very interesting. You've got Lilith and Inarius, an angel and a demon who created Sanctuary. This is the first time we've seen like an archangel and a demon form some kind of an alliance. They seem to be the only entities on each faction with a desire to end the war between heaven and hell, or at least escape it. One of the major issues with the story is the parts that don't include Lilith, Mephisto, or Inarius are terribly mundane. Characters are swapping in and out, and they get killed off, you know, the scene after they're introduced. Some of them I even forget their name, like this guy who was in the tree. Nafane, I totally forgot he existed.
Oh
until
yeah,
I went back and watched my own footage. I think Diablo 4's story is further proof to me that Blizzard's style of writing has deteriorated severely in the last decade.
I agree.
You know, if you compare the end of act cinematics in Diablo 2 to 4, I mean, it's a major difference.
Now, we are truly alone. The creators of Sanctuary, Angel and Demon.
Bruh, this guy got slapped by a thing that can't move.
Father and mother are dead. I heard later that he was defeated. And that the Soul Stones were destroyed in Hellforge. All except one.
The big difference is in Diablo 2, they actually show the events that Marius, the narrator, is talking about, as opposed to just like some boring static shots of like a horse walking through the snow. It's why I seen like this.
Lilith and Astaroth had made a deal, and we were the ones who would pay the cost.
Is nowhere near as interesting or engaging as this.
Take it. Take it. I'm glad this is finally over, Tyrael. Everything happened exactly as Lilith wanted. We just danced to her music.
It's why I'm more interested in this.
Oh, I failed, Tyrael. I couldn't do as you asked.
And not so much this.
Donan was shattered. His mind on grief, not her. Not answers. Look what the stone has done to me.
Playing Diablo 4 is like dating a pretty woman. The kind that the longer you talk to her, the more you realize she has the personality of a tampon. Wide as an ocean.
You should have noticed that literally from the beginning, that she answers with one word in text.
Deep as a puddle. Yes, there are hundreds of NPCs in several different towns, but the world design of Diablo 4 is a byproduct of the gameplay, less so the story. Now, what do I mean by that? What are those words that are coming out of your mouth, Act Man? Let me explain. The open world isn't there to serve as some kind of overarching or branching narrative. It's to create a big-ass map that the developers can litter with tons of activities to keep players busy and keep them grinding. You might have noticed that almost none of the optional dungeons in this game have any sort of story or history behind them. What I find the most immersive game worlds are those that tell a story while I'm playing through them. Now, if you want to understand what's so wrong with
Diablo 4 actually does that, by the way, but you need to pay a lot of attention to the details. So, no one's gonna get it.
Diablo 4's world, we need to look back at the first game, because it's the polar opposite of everything Diablo 4 is trying to be. I think Blizzard knows that Tristram is the most memorable location in the series, because in every sequel they find a reason to take you back there. Thing is, Blizzard doesn't seem to understand why Tristram is such an iconic and memorable location. Oh yeah, the music does some pretty heavy lifting, but the main reason comes down to this phrase: less is more. Bigger isn't always better. Just ask my gargantuan penis. Diablo 1 took place in a single location, Tristram, and there were 8 characters that lived there, a couple cows, and a cathedral that led down to hell where the bad guys were. Each character offered a combination of advice, exposition, and insight for the player. Whenever you got a quest in Diablo 1, you could ask each of the 8 residents about it. This added important context and massive build-up to each quest.
I saw what Farnham calls the Butcher, as it swathed a path through the bodies of...
Yeah, but how many quests are there in Diablo 1? How many things actually do happen in Diablo 1? It is so smaller than Diablo 4. And there's only one location, Tristram. Obviously it's gonna feel special, because you only have it.
My friends, he swung a cleaver as large as an axe, hewing limbs and cutting down brave men where they stood.
I know more than you think about that grisly fiend. His little friends got a hold of me and managed to get my leg before Griswold pulled me out of that hole. I'll put it bluntly. Kill him before he kills you and adds your corpse to his collection. By the light, I know.
I mean, that's literally 3 lines of text, by the way.
Of this vile demon. I don't know what he used to slice open his victims, but it could not have been of this world. Beware if you plan to battle this fiend.
The Butcher is a sadistic creature that delights in the torture and pain of others. You have seen his handiwork in the drunkard Farnham.
Big cleaver, killing all my friends. Couldn't stop him, had to run away.
So everyone in town is telling you this guy is a big fucking menace, but from their own unique perspective. This added realism to the world of Diablo and its characters. It created build-up and tension to every quest and every boss fight. There's a reason Blizzard keeps bringing back the Butcher in newer Diablo games, and it's because this quest from the first game is just that iconic. But why?
Yeah, because he killed everyone.
The spirits of the dead are now...
Because it's unreasonably... Dude, because it's really hard to kill him if you don't know what's coming. And the Butcher is like a ridiculously overtuned.
Avenged.
Well, part of the reason is for every quest in Diablo 1, you get to consult the same 8 characters. This makes the plot easy to follow as it's not being communicated through like 40 different characters. Diablo 4 is like the exact opposite. It feels like once again the designers had to justify this open world design by having you constantly jumping from one area to the next. No one person, quest, or area is given enough screen time to become truly memorable, aside from a handful of moments.
That's
Prime
true.
example of this style of writing is the Tree of Whispers. It's an ancient tree decorated with the severed heads of those who pursued its knowledge. Now, that sounds fucking awesome, but this place has barely any build-up to it at all. You can't really ask characters to prod their knowledge of it. Lorath and Donan might have a couple lines, but it's nothing deep. So it makes this ultra cool area of the game feel far less important than the world is trying to make it out to be. What it boils down to is, ironically, the original Diablo, which takes place in a single town consisting of 8 characters, tells a vastly more interesting, relatable, and immersive story than all of the towns and people in Diablo 4 combined. Now, maybe that's just nostalgia squirting out my...
Yeah, but that does make sense, because you have one singular place, a town, versus a whole world. Obviously, the one singular town has an easier time going in depth into what's currently happening there. In fact, it kind of has to. It literally must.
Yes, but let me convey this point with a question. Can you name a single blacksmith in Diablo 4?
Obviously not.
That's what I thought. Remember Griswold?
Whoa, what can I do for you?
Of course you do. Now run with me on this for a second. Instead of
Charcy's hotter,
having one blacksmith who's like an actual character that you can talk to, who also repairs your shit and sells you stuff, we now have 75 soulless, empty blacksmiths scattered across the land sanctuary, none of whom play any...
There's no shot. He's just over exaggerating, right?
Any role in this.
Also, why should a blacksmith, what do you want? A blacksmith to give you insight on the Tree of Whispers? A blacksmith to give you insight on Lilith? Like, bruh, relax, okay? It's not that deep.
The story or contribute at all to the world building. This doesn't apply to just the blacksmiths in the world of Diablo 4. It applies to all vendors in the game. They serve no purpose outside of gameplay.
Why do you think she's gonna be an expert on demons? Why do you think she is gonna be knowledgeable in that shit? She maybe knows how to skin a rabbit. I don't know why you would expect her to know a random shit about shit.
Which I guess
Bruh.
It's fine. Like, it's lazy, but it's fine. But do you see the conundrum? Since Diablo 4 is an open world game, if you take out 70 blacksmiths and leave only 5 or whatever, then it becomes tedious to find them. And Blizzard clearly didn't want to go through the effort of writing each blacksmith to be an actual character, and I don't blame them for that. My point is that in so many ways, Blizzard seems to sacrifice world building for an open world. Now, call me crazy, but I think vendors and merchants play an important role in a video game, especially if that game is an RPG.
Don't get yourself killed. Neither of us want to see you go hollow.
Nice.
Got something that might interest you.
No, I think all NPCs should play some kind of role in an RPG or offer a slice of life. But outside the characters in the main story, most of the people who inhabit Sanctuary aren't memorable or important at all.
Yes.
And therefore, neither is Sanctuary itself. I don't know, man. The scaling difficulty and restrictive skill trees make the core gameplay feel extremely easy, boring, and repetitive, and with some slight changes that they'll probably never do, would improve the game vastly. The loot is uninteresting, most of the game's content is shit I just ended up skipping trying to get to the fun part, but I never really got to the fun part. In the end, for all of Blizzard's efforts to make Diablo 4 a massive open world game with tons of replayability, content, and depth, it ends up being no deeper than the puddle in my backyard. And that is why Diablo 4 is so bad. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed.
I mean, his takes are fair, if we're being completely honest. But at the same time, man, his perspective is so wild, honestly. His perspective is so wild and skewed, and the comparisons, I I liked maybe like 2 or 3 comparisons throughout the whole of the video. You know, you're comparing a singular village where there's 8 characters, and most characters are going to give you literally 3 lines of a random shitty ChatGPT 3.5 dialogue about a subject. No, actually, ChatGPT 2.0 dialogue subject. And you're comparing it to, yeah, obviously, if you have, like, you know, 50 trillion characters, some of them are not going to be good. Some of them are not going to be memorable. But the comparisons were so bad. I think this is honestly the worst Diablo 4 take we have ever heard. This beats that... Who was it? The IGN guy who said that seasons are bad? Because the Ackman's saying the seasons are bad because... I don't think these games are for him, honestly. I just think these games are fundamentally not for him. Anyway, this was Quizzer Sid said. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.